Cool. Tor, it's okay, honey. Tor, it's okay. Tor, it's okay. Tor.
As far as I know, she's going to turn on the microphone.
Tor, hush now. Tor.
Exactly.
Hey, Tor, stop it. Tor, stop it now. Tor.
And the room got quiet.
Tor, stop it now. Just stop it.
Good afternoon, friends, and soon to be friends. It's been a tough week in Lake Wobegon, but the elections are over. Congratulations to the winners, and congratulations to those that put themselves out there that didn't do as well. Just for the good of the cause, I want to report on Will Dibbling, who has a torn bicep. I was playing golf with Will, I guess about 6 weeks ago in the Salvation Army tournament, and he injured his bicep. Though I can't say nobody got hurt. Will did. But he's doing well. He's recovered. He's in a cast up to about here. I think he's on Zoom today. Tom Miller's recovering from shoulder surgery. He reports no pain, which is a good thing. And we want to congratulate Donna Lynch as her family saw growth 2 weeks ago, birth of a new granddaughter. Congratulations. Let's see what else we have.
Yeah.
We salute the veterans for the service of our country. We know you're standing. Raise your hand if you're a veteran. Thank you all for your service. Today's invocation will be Mike Adams. The song leader will be Bill Bespich. And the Pledge of Allegiance will be Jackie Bledsoe. If you please come forward. Thank you.
Most merciful Father, thank you for our humble and tranquil valley with its flaming scarlets and brilliant yellows that quietly whisper your majesty. Thank you for the food prepared this day with great love. And thank you for the invisible threads of love that connect us forever. Bless our loved ones who are alive and well on this side of life, and our loved ones who are alive and well on the other side of life, for we know their souls indeed are with us. Lord, may we be mindful that those who are most blessed are not those who have the most, but those who need the least. Reverend Fleming Rutledge observes that as we grow older, our lives of thanksgiving deepen. In her words, our more mature prayers of thanks are not for the obvious things, but for obstacles overcome, insights gained, lessons learned, increased humility, help received in time of need, strength to persevere, opportunities to serve others. O gentle King of the universe, we give you thanks for our unextraordinary lives in which we can say we have loved and been loved. Fed or not, we are grateful indeed. Amen.
Well, it's a beautiful day, so let's sing America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies full and the waves of grain. For purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Oops. Good afternoon. The first thing I'm going to do is ask all of you to be seated for a minute. You don't have to stand through this, okay? Put my glasses on so I can see what I'm saying. Hi. Okay, you know, every week we come together and we say the Pledge of Allegiance. And, you know, I think we've become complacent about the words to the pledge. We say it by rote, when we could say it in our sleep. But do we really understand the inspiration, the spirit behind that flag? You know, in 1814, Francis Scott Key was so inspired by seeing the flag fly over Fort McHenry that he wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, which became our national anthem. In 1892, James Upham and Francis Bellamy were so inspired by the flag that they wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. It's really a simple design when you look at it. 13 stripes representing the original 13 colonies, 7 red and 6 white. White represents purity because we're independent from other countries and hold true to our ideals. Red represents hardiness and valor. Blue signifies vigilance and justice. And of course, there's a white star for every one of our 50 states. Thousands of men and women have been inspired by that flag in time of war, inspired to attempt the unthinkable and doing the impossible. Ask the men who landed on the beaches of Normandy or the men who raised the flag on Mount Suribachi what that flag meant to them. It says, I pledge, meaning I dedicate my all to this symbol of freedom. Allegiance, my loyalty. The United States, we all have different boundaries, but we're one country. To the Republic, not a monarchy, but governed by an elected presidents. Under God, indivisible, unshakable, with liberty and justice for all. And on Veterans Day, coming up in a couple of days, we honor the veterans of all wars. And I'm sure most of you know why November the 11th was chosen, but if you don't, I'll tell you. Because on this date, the 11th month, the 11th day, and the 11th hour, the war to end all wars, World War I, was ended. On the 12th of November, the day after Veterans Day in 1997, my dad passed away. We were honored to have his best friend, Marine Woody Williams, who was the last surviving World War II Medal of Honor recipient, to deliver his eulogy. Woody just passed away in June at age 99. So I'd like to take a minute to say the names one more time in honor of the men in my family who served in all 4 branches of the military. Excuse me. My dad, George Farnsworth Jackson, was a proud Marine. He served in the Pacific under General Douglas MacArthur. I'll tell you a short story. Dad never talked about his time in the military. We couldn't get him to talk about it. But one story he did tell, and I'm going to share with you. They found a place one day, the men around them, where they could safely light a cigarette, because there were times when you couldn't have a flame any place. So Dad always carried his trusty Zippo lighter with him. And shortly a man came up behind him and asked for a light. When Dad looked up, it was his brother, whom he hadn't seen for years. And he didn't know that that's who he tapped on the shoulder. But I have that lighter. It's got Zippo on the bottom of it, and it's worn out. Daddy carried that really until he retired. And then my cousin Gary Robert Johnson was also a Marine. In the Army, my uncle John Kingery was a cryptographer, and his office was in the West Wing of the White House. My brother-in-law was in the Army. George Bradford Leslie went on to become outstanding in his field of surveying. For 5 years, his desk and a life-size cutout was on exhibit in the Smithsonian. Uncle Bill Bledsoe served under General George Patton. My cousins Dennis Ray Price and Richard Keith Johnson were also Army and the Navy. My uncle Theodore Raymond Price served in the Pacific as a gunner's mate on the destroyer of the USS Porter. My uncle Joseph Flynn Power served on the Ticonderoga, which was torpedoed, trapping him in the boiler room. Both he and the ship survived. My brother-in-law David Lee served on the flight deck of the USS Philippine Sea. And my 2 sons were in the Navy. Devin Scott was part of a flight crew on a P-3 submarine's reconnaissance plane. I received a letter one day from him. It was written while he was in flight. He says, "Mom, we're 300 feet over the ocean, 2 engines feathered, looking for subs." Just the thing Mother wants to hear. That's when my hair started turning white. And then my son Daniel, Joseph Daniel, was on a troop ship, the USS Raleigh. He was the lead man in a fire brigade. He said, "Mom, that only means if there's a fire, I go in first." Well, that was the rest of my hair turned white. So thank God they weren't in the service in time of war, but had they been, they would have enlisted. They wouldn't have hesitated. And my former husband, Joseph Brooklyn, was in the Air Force in the AC&W, at the time called Aircraft Control and Warning. He went on to serve 38 years in a career as an air traffic controller. With the exception of my sons, all of these men have passed away. They may be gone, but I want them to know they will never be forgotten. Now, I would like for every man and woman in this room that either served in the military or is a Gold Star family, please stand up and let's give them another round of applause. Please stand. Thank you. Now I would like everyone to stand again and say the pledge like we mean it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm on mute, so.
Today, the introduction of guests will be done by Steve English.
Thank you. We have 4 guests today. If I can ask each of you to stand up along with your hosts, and we'll applaud for everyone at the end. First, we have Emily Moore from the Mill Mountain Zoo. She's guest of Pegram Johnson. Next, we have Keely Lancaster from ServPro. Her host is Clark Goodman. Kiana Marshall from United Way.
This thing's putting out.
Her host is Milton Hardy.
You like me getting stopped.
Milton has only one on here today, I'll point out. Kind of disappointing. And then Abby Hamilton, also from United Way. Her host is Frank Rogan. If we can get a round of applause.
One of the great things we get to do as Kiwanians is share the wealth from our pancake and our foundation and our service budget. So today we have a grant presentation. Bob?
Thank you, Ben. We have one today for our Mill Mountain Zoo. So Emily, would you come forward, and Pegram? And would you please come back here by the mic? We're going to ask Emily to tell us a little bit about what she is going to, do with the grant. And I think she's got a little show and tell here too. But first, Pegram, if you would tell us a little bit about Mill Mountain Zoo.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to talk about Mill Mountain Zoo. It's-
Yeah.
Unless
I
you've
thought it
just
was-
moved here in the last day or so, you know the Mill Mountain Zoo sitting
I
on
don't
top
think
of Mill
so.
Mountain. But what you might not know is that this year is the 70th anniversary of the zoo. It opened up in 1952. There are between 130 and 150 animals at the zoo. They are watched over by a staff of 19 employees. The zoo is a member of the
150
Zoological
animals up there?
Association of America. And let me tell you a couple of things that are going on at the zoo. This year, they recently opened a newly built, we're lucky to have a recently built enclosure for the black bear and also the red wolves. These were
Black bear.
rebuilt. The enclosures were very old and needed to be rebuilt, and they're very nice and new at the back of the zoo now. What's coming up is a new python exhibit. The Zoo Chew has been worked on so many times, but has undergone a complete renovation and is going to be running again in the spring. A new playground is being built at the zoo thanks to Carilion Clinic or Carilion Children's Hospital, I guess it is. And also there are plans to enlarge the reptile house at the zoo. So lots is going on at the zoo.
So hello, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Emily, and I want to begin by saying thank you. I should probably bring this down. I am very short, so sorry. I want to begin by saying thank you all so very, very much for your support of the zoo. As a nonprofit, it really means everything to have organizations like this one backing us. And so the grant that we were awarded will be going to our education department, which I am a proud member of. And so as my little friend here will demonstrate. So one of our biggest things that we do is our many, many outreach programs where we go into local schools, libraries, retirement homes, and basically try and spread as much knowledge and love about wildlife that we can. So a lot of times people don't have access to a lot of the species that aren't really native around here. And so Henry here, as he's wiggling around my hand, he's a leopard gecko, and he is one of our animal ambassadors that will be supported by this grant and be able to go into local schools, libraries, and retirement homes to teach children and adults about animals and all the cool things about them and why we should help protect them so we can live in this world together. So thank you all again very much. I'm very excited to be joining you today.
When she's talking. Oh, it's a little varmint.
Some of you all in her hand.
Mhm. All right. This is lunch.
I really just wanted Henry.
I can take it back out.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
A little leopard gecko with her. The zoo.
Mike Lubman, you're not muted.
That's not the gecko that sells insurance,
Yeah.
right? He's working up to it. That's right. If he did, we wouldn't need to raise any money. Oh, goodness. Announcements today. Let's see. Let me do mine first. The officers' meeting will take place tomorrow at my office on Chaparral. If you're interested, please join us at 3 o'clock. The board meeting will be at ServPro on Monday, not at the Water Authority, but at ServPro. Now, what this means is for the board meeting, there will not be a Zoom option. ServPro doesn't have the OWL like the Water Authority has. So it will be in person only. So please let us know if you're coming. That way we can be sure that we've got lunches for everybody and all that. November birthdays. Here comes Jean.
Well, we've got kind of a small showing today for our birthdays because it sounds like a few of them are on our injured list. First up is Joyce Wog, November 1st, and Joyce might still be in Egypt. She took a really big trip for her big birthday this year, so good for her. November 3rd, Will Dibbling. November 3rd is also Jay Massey. November 4th, Tom Miller. November 8th, Manly Ayler. November 10th is David Daniels and Sheon Baker. Number 13th, Kevin Berry. Number 15th, Larry Kufel, who's here in person. JC Taylor is November 28th. He's also in person, and we have a few on Zoom. Can you kick off a happy birthday for us, Judy? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kiwanis. Happy birthday to you.
Now we have announcements, just reminding everybody, all the announcements are posted on our webpage on the members section. So please be aware that they're all there, but just to keep it going. Let's see. I don't know. Milton, I don't see you on here anywhere, man. He's
Oh, you're just kidding.
no.
I'm going first.
Okay, you go first. Come on, Larry.
He's too hard to follow. Larry Kufel here, and another reminder that we've got 46 fun-loving members signed up for a holiday social event, which is December 1st. We're all going across the street to Mill Mountain Theater to see Holiday Inn. But before that, we're going to go on the second floor in Center in the Square, thanks to Charles Price, the executive director of the Harrison Museum, allowing us to use his museum for our reception. So Amy Carter is going to supply the heavy hors d'oeuvres and an open bar, beer and wine, soft drinks, water. And that'll start at 6 o'clock. The show starts at 7:30. You get all of this for one price of $48. So you can't beat that bargain, all right? And I know I didn't want to follow Milton because he's going to talk about new members, but this is an opportunity to invite some of your guests, whether you're family members or your friends or potential members for Kiwanis, to bring them to this social event to show them what a great time we have as Kiwanis. So we can put a challenge to Milton and see if we can beat him. All right? Thanks. I've got a sign-up log on the tables. Anybody on Zoom, please send me an email if you want to come, but please sign up. It's a great time.
Hello, everyone. This particular person was not here last week, and I thought it'd be robbery not to be able to. That's right, he got his shades on today. Ken Briggs, come on up here. He is no longer known as Ken Briggs, he is now Mr. October. So when you see him in the aisleways, you can call him Mo. He has his shades. Let's go ahead and have our presidential moment. Thank you, sir.
Face the camera.
Face the camera.
Thank you, bam.
That's right. Now you look like the president. Now we're in a new month, and I have a guest already, but I thought it'd be robbery not to show you what the new trophy looks like. It's so different. No, it don't have Ken Briggs, but why am I gonna put somebody else's picture on it? Boom! It's almost the same. So, a little bit more stars to go along with the face, all right? So, this is just a reminder for anybody that does not know what this contest is about. We are challenging you to bring somebody to these meetings. I think we have some great people here. We have some great guests that come along and share information, but we want to grow this club. Are we still number one?
Yes.
We're still number one. We want to stay number one. So, as I always lead out with, don't let the new guy beat you. Have a great day.
Sharon? Oh, Don?
Just a reminder that the Adult Care Center luncheon is on the 18th of this month. This will be the last week we're going to distribute the sheets. However, if you haven't already signed it, now's a good chance to do that. Don't sign it twice, just add your name to the list. And it's a lot of fun. You help to distribute the food to the people.
And then you have a chance at the end to eat the meal as well. So keep that in mind. If you haven't done it before, check with somebody else in the club and they'll explain the fun and the joy we have in doing it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Hartman, and my wife and I have been involved in the Capital District Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And the leader of this is Joshua Escock, and we have been developing strategies to try to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout. And on the 30th of November at 7, there's going to be an online presentation given by AJ Young and Adrian Young. They are people who, after the riots in Charlottesville, gave presentations, a table talk. And I think they'll be very interesting in beginning our conversation as a capital district on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, if you're interested in joining this web-based program at 7 on the 30th of November, there'll be a link in the chat box. Am I correct?
Yeah, Mike McAvoy.
Okay. And I'm going to check with my wife. Did I include everything? Well, thank you all. And I hope you could link into that, that presentation. I think it'll be very interesting.
Fellow Kiwanis, Ken Briggs, with two announcements. First of all, Mike McAvoy asked me to let you know, well, you probably already know, we have a long-term relationship with West Side Elementary School, the largest elementary school in the city. And tomorrow night, they're having a program from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. to honor veterans. So I hope all of you who stood and raised your hand as veterans will join us tomorrow night. They've asked us to be there at 5:45 tomorrow evening. We'll be up on the stage, I think, and the kids will cheer for us and so on. The other thing, I'm on the agenda to talk about our opportunities to ring the bell for the Salvation Army. Christmas will be here soon. And about 2008, we really found a sweet spot to ring the bell during the 3 nights of Dickens of a Christmas. We hope to do that again this year, December 2nd, 9th, and 16th. Sign up. Sheets will be on your table next week, and it'll be on our webpage shortly. Hope you'll come out. How many of you have ever been to Dickens of a Christmas? Oh, wow. Most of you. So you know it's a beautiful evening and a great opportunity. We've been raising about $2,700 for the last 2 years. And part of that is because we set up the virtual red kettle. Sherry Hartman has set that up. We're going to do it again. So one of the bright spots of Christmas. Thank you.
Hi, Michael Proctor here. I have my K-Pad hat on. I want you to know that this year we will begin selling K-Pad tickets before Christmas. We will have a booth at the Holiday Craft Show over at the Berglund Center. What a handy place for people to buy pre-Christmas gifts. The problem is we need a few of you to come over and help staff that booth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a photograph of the audience. And when I take the photograph, some of you are going to be so enthusiastically responding to my request to help us staff the booth on December 3rd and 4th. All right, you ready? I did say enthusiastic, didn't I?
It'll be fun, really.
You know, I could have done a still painting on that. Enthusiastic. I'll take what I can get. Thank you.
I'm John Montgomery, Club Secretary. Pinch hitting for Lois James is working today. Lois has been our chair of the West End Center Christmas party, holiday party, I guess we should appropriately call it, shortly before Christmas for many years. And it's a successful program. It even predates Lois's involvement with the club, but she's done a great job the last 6 years, I believe it is. There's a sign-up sheet on your table. Those of you who've been in the club more than a year know that there's lots of ways to help support this project. You can help purchase gifts. You can help wrap gifts, although there's some uncertainty as to exactly when the wrapping is going to occur. You'll know in plenty of time who's going to do the wrapping and when. But if you're interested in that, I hope you'll check that mark. If you want to shop, that's a fun thing to do. Eric Danielson enjoys that almost as much as Christmas itself, don't you, Eric? And he picks up a couple of gifts for himself that he pays for out of his pocket while he's there. But this is funded by our sponsors of the club and our members of the club. So there's an opportunity for all of us to make a contribution to help pull this off. We're expecting 59 children here on December 14th. And you can do your own multiplication. To have a few gifts for each person, it takes a substantial amount of dollars. But if all of our members or most of our members make some sort of contribution, whatever you can afford, please indicate it on the sheet. I'll pick it up after the meeting. And the billing option is available, as many of you know, for all of our projects. Larry talked about the Mill Mountain Theater event. I'm happy as treasurer to bill you appropriately for anything of that nature. So if that's easier for you, please do that. If you would prefer to write a check ahead of time, you can work that with me individually. But I know it'll be a great event. I know we'll have a big crowd here, especially with 59 children, that the hall will be full, and we look forward to your help in making it a success. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Last year, we spent $75 per child. And if you have 59 kids, I just did the math, that's $4,400 that we will raise. We will do it. We'll hit it. I'll hit sponsors this week. And we'll do that. Introducing today's program today will be Frank Rogan. Frank, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Save your applause for our guest. As Ben said, my name is Frank Rogan. I haven't been here in a while, but it's good to see everybody. So I get to introduce Abby Hamilton Verdillo Hamilton, right? And Abby and I go way back. So I'll tell you a brief story about Abby. You can read her bio in the Alex's newsletter. I'll tell you a little bit about Abby. So Abby came to Roanoke in 2002. That's a long time ago, but it wouldn't show it, right? So at 2002, she got a job at CVS up at Towers, right? And that's where she worked at CVS up at Towers. And then in the summertime of 2002, she came to United Way to apply for a job as administrative assistant. So Abby came in and obviously got the job. She knocked us out, basically. So one of the things I would do with new members of the staff is I'd ask them to do their own work plan. How do I do that? I said, well, here's the organization work plan, here's the department work plan, here's your job description. Go do it. Oh yeah, I'll do it really good. I'll do a good job. And I walk by their office and have this furrowed brow and look on their face like, what am I supposed to do? Within 24 hours, Abby's work plan came back to me in my inbox, and I was shocked because it was the most complete and comprehensive plan I've ever seen in my life. So I thought, well, maybe she had somebody do it for her, maybe. So I went back to her office and said, how'd you do this? And she said, well, she explained the whole process she went through, and she talked about how she thought about the job and really gave some good thought and went to the work plans. And then also, she said, I have a background in TQM or Six Sigma, whatever it was at that time. I said, boy, it shows. So anyway, I went back to my office and thought, boy, did we get lucky getting this person. But then after that, Abby just took off, and that was only the beginning of her career. So shortly thereafter, we made her a campaign associate, which means she went out and raised money, which she did a great job at that. And she became the manager of community investment, which means she actually spent about $3 million of your money every year, which she did very, very well. And she became, I think, the director of community impact, which means she started working on education, financial literacy, and health. And then she became the VP of community impact. And then she became the CEO of United Way. So that's quite a rise since 2002. So it's my honor, my pleasure to introduce to you the person who came from CVS to CEO, Abby Verdilio Hamilton. Abby, tell us about United Way.
I had a feeling he was going to tell something like that. He has other stories too. Makes me a little nervous. Thank you again, Frank. Thanks again for inviting me, and thank you all to our Kiwanis members. I am a longtime big fan of the Kiwanis and also a wonderful admirer of the work that you've been doing. And it is such an honor to be part of your meeting this month and to be able to celebrate and talk a little bit about our community and maybe even opportunities for us to kind of create synergy in the future. So as Frank mentioned, I've been at United Way for a while. I've just passed my 20th year there. And I think the one thing that we share in common between Kiwanis and United Way is you all just celebrated your 100-year anniversary, right? We are about to celebrate ours. And I would think that within the 100 years of the Kiwanis' lifetime, you all have had a lot of changes, and we have as well at United Way. So I was thinking, like, what am I going to cover and talk to you about today to kind of make it a little interesting? And I thought one of the things that we could do today was really to do a little bit of reintroduction. It's been a while. We've not seen each other since before the pandemic in person, and likely you probably have not heard from United Way in right around that time too. So I think this would be a good time to kind of just catch up, get to know each other again, and then kind of rediscover any opportunities for us to work together. So when you think about United Way, what is it that what normally first comes to mind? I'm gonna move the slide here. Right? So it might be community, it might be about pledge forms, about community partners, thermometer, fundraising, like all of the things that you would normally associate with United Way that you probably are familiar with. I'm gonna let Mike do his magic on the technology side, but I'll kind of continue. So I think it will be good for us to kind of just, again, reintroduce ourselves and tell you, like, one of the unique contributions that United Way has had as an organization is really our knowledge of community. And then using that knowledge to be able to collectively problem solve and tackle our community's most challenging problems. And like the Kiwanis, we also mobilize people, organizations to solve these issues together. And because we are part of a global network, kind of like Kiwanis too, we are able to drive any solution to scale as we're working with over 1,100 other United Ways across the country and across the globe. So here in our local United Way of Roanoke Valley, I don't know if you've known this or you've heard about this, but back in 2017, we, the board, launched a new direction, which is our vision to elevate 10,000 families to self-sufficiency by 2030. So the clock is ticking on us. And it's an incredibly lofty goal, and it represents a huge change from what United Way has traditionally been known for and our approach. So what makes this approach different? I'll point out a few things. One will be the focus on the entire family. What you probably are familiar with as United Way is the funding of singular programs. What we wanted to do was really understand the entire family unit, knowing that children, youth, even the adults are part of an entire family unit. And therefore their success has to be based on our ability to meet the needs of that entire family unit. The other thing that's kind of different from this approach is making sure and understanding that in order to meet the entire needs of the family, we cannot do it in the absence of collaboration. And so collaboration was kind of a given in that approach. And the last thing is the importance of really authentically partnering with the families, right? It's not us as the experts coming in telling people what to do, but it's really understanding where families want to go and us being the people that support them in meeting those goals and eliminating the barriers that might exist. So now that I've explained to you what we're trying to do as United Way, it's probably good to know, like, how are we planning to do that? So this was the framework that we came up with, which is the family-led self-sufficiency model. That top band actually talks about the synergy and the collaboration that needs to happen across programs, right? So when you work with the family, you start with the assets and the talents and skills that they have, make sure that we eliminate or stabilize their situation so that we can intervene and they're able to think more long-term. And when they're out of a situation of crisis, you then give them the ability to build on assets, which we call stabilizing strategies. You give them the ability to get out of a crisis situations like, being evicted from their home, but you don't stop there. You want to make sure that you address the root causes by providing them the ability to either seek a better job or build assets on their own so that that same problem does not perpetuate in the future. And so you think about that top band, that is really where a lot of the collaboration exists and how we are reconfiguring how different human service organizations are working together. Now, the bottom bands are really the two things that are different about United Way's approach. I will take the bottom one first, which is the actual infrastructure. So as you know, collaboration is not something that is natural. It's hard, it should be intentional, and it requires a lot of effort. So think about infrastructure as what United Ways does to make sure that we facilitate collaboration across partners and actually providing the glue to make sure that the partners are working in a synergistic manner. System influence is really another term for what we would call public policy. When we think about an approach to elevate families to self-sufficiency, we don't only want to make sure that we put Band-Aids on things, right? We want to make sure that we start to address root causes. And sometimes those root causes involve reviewing our own practices, policies, small p within organizations, large P policy, laws, and things that might create barriers for people in a generational manner. So that it actually represents the wholeness of United Way's approach to family self-sufficiency. So the next question is so who are we targeting? Who does United Way work with now? When we talk about the 10,000 families, we're really talking about not just your traditional poor, right, that fall into the federal poverty level, but we're also talking about a hidden segment of the population called ALICE. For those of you that have not heard that term, it's an acronym called Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So people who are actually working sometimes 2 or 3 jobs, but they don't still earn enough to make ends meet. So while they're working, their income falls, there's an emergency or an unexpected expense, and they fall through the cracks. So what does that local data look like? So just to give you an example of the extent of ALICE, it kind of help you visualize this. By children, in households with children, the Virginia ALICE report actually tells us that about 47% of households with children actually fall in this population. So they're struggling and they can't make ends meet. So you can imagine the impact of that on students, on youth, and their ability to be able to succeed. In the Roanoke Valley, we actually have about 16,000 families already in poverty, falling in that traditional bracket, and another 40,000 households that actually are below the ALICE threshold. So it's about 44% of all households here in the Roanoke Valley are in here. So why is this population important? Because we know from research, particularly here in the post-pandemic, that ALICE households, the ones that are earning below what is needed to survive, actually fared worse during the pandemic than any other household. So that should be top of mind for us as organizations that want to make a difference in the community, and particularly for United Way as we take action on these things. So a little bit of United Way math. So we've said, okay, these are the things we want to do. Here are the people that we want to help. How does the math work? Well, the one thing that hasn't changed from United Way that you know is that 99% of the gifts that to the impact fund, the gifts to United Way actually stay here in the region to solve the problems and address the population that we talked about. So in the past campaign, we raised about $2.4 million. We used that money to actually leverage and secure an additional $4.8 million through grants. And then make sure that 85% of that goes directly to benefit programs, partnerships, and initiatives throughout the Roanoke Valley working on these populations. I like that math. So on your tables, we distributed a little sheet to introduce you to where does United Way help. The blue portion of the map is actually where our core service area is. So when we raise money from the United Way campaign, the money that is raised from there and other grants go to support programming in that blue area. But when I talked about the 4.8 million that we also additionally generate, we work with regional partnerships to serve those outlying areas that are in yellow and red as well, which is kind of totally different from what you would have expected from United Way. So let me give an example. What have we seen so far from the work that we launched back in 2017 through the pandemic and now moving forward? So we're seeing in the collaboration that we have one with led by Chip of Roanoke Valley, we have an early learners collaborative. So basically the entry point is young children needing assistance. There are about 15 different nonprofit organizations that are working in that collaborative together. So we wouldn't fund a single agency to be able to do that work. We know that 15 agencies need to work together to make it happen. And when with this collaborative, they're able to serve about 960 young children and their families with more holistic supports, including healthcare, dental care, food, childcare, after school care, or such for other members of that household. Another example since we talked about early learning success, youth success, mentorship and youth development, we have seven partnering after and out of school programs that serve about 400 students here in the Roanoke Valley. Again, not a single organization, but a network of after and out of school programs that are committed to supporting youth and make them succeed. The one thing that is unique about this is making sure that not only do they have the academic support, but particularly through the pandemic and actually going after the pandemic, that they have the mental health services supports tied into all of these after school programs as well. And again, same model as the one with Chip, Family Service leads this effort. And if it comes out that a family within those programs requires assistance with rent, food, or other things to help that child succeed, the partners will connect them with those same resources as well. So the next one, when we talk about family stability, I'd like to talk about work that we're trying to do to eliminate barriers to employment. And that partnership is led by TAP, and it also involves our regional workforce development board. So what we want to be able to do in this collaboration is to make sure that when people come in to ask for help to find a job, to be trained, or to be placed in a job, that we actively eliminate the barriers to them succeeding, completing their training, or being placed and retained in that job. And sometimes it's as simple as covering childcare during that training, or covering childcare during the first few weeks that somebody's working. Sometimes it's helping them buy the tools, buying the safety shoes that actually allows them to be part of the workforce. So I'm pretty excited about the work that's happening there, because I think because we've had a huge history working with that since 2017, I know that that was an example of how the city of Roanoke was also able to use their ARPA funding to invest in a more progressive approach to workforce development, which included not just training and not just workforce development, but actually barrier elimination and specific to that. So it better complements other state and federal funding. The lastly is we talked about that infrastructure, coordinating care with community health workers. These are credible, trusted people who live and serve in their own neighborhoods. We have about, I think last count, I said 5 or 6 community health workers that are actively deployed in different agencies here in the Roanoke Valley. Our dream and our goal as United Way is to be able to support an entire network of community health workers and provide ongoing support so that we will not only have community health workers helping to connect people to resources when they go to a healthcare setting, but also have them at a library, at a public housing authority, maybe an after-school program, because this is the assistance, the kind of assistance that people need in order to navigate that system and get the support. So this is a partnership, again, of several different organizations that have been hosting CHWs. Some pay for their own, some are supported by United Way, but all of them are supported by my good friend Milton Hardy right there, who leads that effort with our community health workers in the hub. All right, and so I've talked about the band and the collaboration. We've talked a little bit about the infrastructure, how we're helping to make collaboration happen. And then the next thing is, the last thing I want to talk about is the example of public policy. So what is the kind of work that United Way is doing around public policy? Well, one is around improving policy and practice in Virginia, particularly around access to early care and education. So we have an ongoing partnership, longstanding partnership with the Virginia Department of Education, Virginia Department of Social Services, and the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation that helps us secure the state and federal pass-through funding that allows us to serve about 200 childcare programs here in the entire region. That will include public preschool in our all of our elementary schools, in many, many different public school systems, Head Start, private childcare, you name it. We are actually serving close to 70% of anybody that's taking care of children in an entire 26 county region. And that represents 1,500 educators, people that are working daily with children, and 6,700 young children that then get to benefit from the early care that these adults provide. So what makes this interesting, if you look at the graphic on the left, is these represent the different programs that our United Way through this funding is able to provide. So you look at the level 5, which is the highest, naturally, the highest rated childcare setting. And will you believe that one of those, actually more than one, are actually family day home providers? Some of them actually, in terms of quality, are sometimes better than childcare providers that are private. And so giving an opportunity for quality access to care that is affordable for every kind of family, wherever they might be within that region. And as part of a statewide movement, we want to make sure that that is present for every child in Virginia. It's part of our economic development strategy as Virginia, and it's also like a good investment for us to strengthen our workforce for the future. So where do we go from here as I wrap up? What do I have? I'm like, the question was like, what do I have in mind going into the future? How do we build on the work that we already have? Well, one, as Frank mentioned, I am a minority leader, and that is an important identity that I bring with me in this position. And therefore, often, right, our organizations reflect the values, not just of the organization, but the leadership. And to me, that is one thing that is incredibly important. I am very thrilled that the Kiwanis is doing work around DEI, and we too, United Way, is doing the same thing. So to me, part of our work in the future is continuing to integrate equity in everything that we do, not just in the delivery of the programming, but how we operate as a business. It also includes things that we probably heard in the news, the introduction and the building of capacity of minority leaders, and also developing and engaging more grassroots, our actual neighbors, in the forming of solutions and the implementation of solutions. So to me, integrating equity in the work that we do, continued community engagement, and again, collaboration. We can't move forward without that. So what does that mean for you then as Kiwanis members and as part of this illustrious organization? I think that represents opportunities for us to continue to have synergy. I think there is great opportunity for us to align. I think we care about the same things that you do as well. And there's great opportunity for us to combine forces and target the areas that we find most challenging in this community to leverage our influence, the resources, your volunteer power. Because again, when we have this collaboration, it gives us an incredible opportunity to scale up impact that we don't even see right now. And I think I will end by saying that the other opportunity that we have always is lying in this whole notion of United Way's tagline called Live United, which means we can give united, we give to the same things that we know we need support in our community. We can advocate together because of the issues that we've talked about. We don't want to just put Band-Aids. Let's use your influence, relationships, et cetera, to really address root causes in our community. And third, I saw your volunteer opportunities on here. Let's go ahead and explore opportunities to volunteer together and be out in the community to make an even greater difference. So I hope that got you a little reacquainted with United Way and what has happened over the last few years. And again, I thank you for this time that you've allowed me to have, and I'm going to turn it over to Ben.
Thank you, Amy. It is our custom that we provide an honorarium to speakers, and this honorarium this week goes to the United Way. Thank you, Amy. Next week's program is, remind me. Ram House, Melissa from Ram House. That's right. Is there anything else for the good of the cause? Is there time for questions? There is. Amy?
Yes, sir. All right, cool.
I'm Lee Osborne. I was curious.
Hi, Lee.
How much of your funding now comes from the traditional employer deduction method? How else you get your funds?
That is an excellent, excellent question. So if you saw the totals that I showed you, we are now looking at, like years ago, I remember Lee from like our campaign cabinet. A lot of the money that United Way generated truly was from workplace campaigns, from individual giving. And as you know, with changes in the marketplace, changes in corporate structures, that has gone down over the years. And it's like a challenge that all nonprofits have had. So if you think about that, like 100% before, now what gets generated from the traditional, what we consider the traditional campaign, is about 60 to 70% of United Way's total revenue. So we have diversified over the last, 20 years to include the grant revenue that we're able to generate and other revenue sources that we've creatively accessed through partnerships and through collaboration.
I know you were also looking at creating a foundation about that time frame. Does that move forward in any way?
I think there is, and well, at least if I could give my personal opinion about it, we have such a strong partner with the Community Foundation that it would be a huge mistake not to use them as an asset and a partner rather than like creating. So I think there's definitely opportunity that I would personally prefer to explore in partnership with the Community Foundation to explore things like an endowment or other longer lasting investments to United Way. And I will be here after 12:30 too, and you dismiss if you have other questions.
Thank you. Anything else? With that being said, I say we're adjourned.